Well, hello folks, I'm L.A. Little and this is your daily NeoTA wrap. When we take a look at these markets, we do it from a neoclassical perspective each time, asking ourselves just that one question. What happened today? What does it tell us about the coming ones? Do this show 4 times a week. Every Monday through Thursday is broadcast at or before 10 o'clock Eastern Time, archived on YouTube. It's under the channel L.A. Little, and if you haven't subscribed, reach up there on the top right hand side and subscribe. It's free. You get notification anytime content is pushed. A simple, easy way to keep up with the markets from a neoclassical perspective, a perspective nobody else gives you. I created it. I created the model back in late 2006, perfected it through the 2008 crash, made money through the 2008 crash. We averted this particular crash or mini crash, whatever you want to call it. If you go back down, I'm scrolling down here. I'm talking about right here, opportunity to buy coming up. Before that, though, somewhere down here, there it is. Stock market technicals suggest a breakdance lower. This was published on Thursday, September 2000. It was the 17th, 2015. Let's quickly take a look at that chart. So this is 2015, 17th. And what day was that? Right there. That was when we said we were going to get a break dance lower. Look at that dance lower, folks. This model works. You see me call it day in and day out. If you don't understand what I'm doing, that's fine. Learn. I give you plenty of information. You can come over to the site. If you're really serious about what you're doing with your money, you can come over to the site. You can hit our tools. You can hit Trade with LA. You can get started. I welcome you. I'm here to teach you. That's what I do with everybody that subscribes. And if I can help you, drop in and let me try to do it. Let's look at the numbers here. So if we pop in here, gold down today. We had the dollar bouncing back, but everything else was green. You got green again tonight over in Shanghai. I'm not sure if this Nikkei quote is tonight. I suspect it is. I was surprised last night in that we had more strength overseas than I expected given those charts. I did expect it here. I told you that last night, that we were going to go back the other way. I did not expect it to be as strong as it was today. What that tells me is that this market is stronger than we think, or there are some extenuating circumstances, like I talked about last night with the options expiration, that is pushing this market around, and that may end after Friday. So at least another day, another pop up. I think you're going to see some carry through. We'll talk about how that looks, but you definitely got some moves today to the upside. And so let's look at the chart. So there's some interesting phenomena, right, taking place here. And the hard thing is, all this year it has been wrong to chase anything, because we've had sideways ranges. I called those ranges for you way back in, I think it was early March, when I said that that was going to be a range trade and that this thing was going to range. Now you're over the B point. You got over tonight, right? You got over the swing point high as well. This thing's set up to try to make the run. Problem is, and we've talked about this before, is you have anchored resistance up in this area. And that was from the breakdown. Right, you have this little breakdown area here, and then that leads you right into all the anchored resistance. And if we pull over the weekly chart, you can visualize a little bit better, right? Because on the left-hand side, it's already ran off the chart. But we can go back to this bar here on the weekly and pull it up, right? Do the weekly. That's the weekly retest regen. We're also in weekly retest regens already from these bars, these two here. And so, you have to try to keep things in perspective about what's going on. This test looks like it's going to be a full retest regen. What does that mean? That means it's going to try to get all the way to these tops. Where are those tops? 2070, right? That's where they come in. Where does that get you to? Well, it gets you back into this bar as well if it does it. That's 2043. That's the number we were just talking about on the daily. And it potentially can get you to that bar, which is also the daily. That's the 2073 number. So this area right here is going to be one heck of a chore to get over. And that's where we're heading. That's what we're trying to head up to right now, and that's where the real test is going to be when we get there. If we get a nice spike up tomorrow, or maybe a little follow through next week, that's where it's going to try to get to. What I had talked about before is that as we get up there on these charts, given the way this thing has set up, we're also going to get back up there on the NASDAQ and the NDX now. Now the NASDAQ got up to do a full retest regen the last time it came up here, and that was this bar. And so if I draw that in right, let me just grab it and pull it down for you. The top of that bar, let me grab it here, the top of that bar was the full retest regen off of the swing point breaks that broke before. And so that area was the area, and as we came into that area, right, that was the test. That was the first retest, and those first retests, as I've said before, when you go more than 6 bars, and we went way more than 6 bars on the daily, that says that when you come into that, there's a huge probability, high probability that you're going to go back down the other way, and that's exactly what happened. Now, when you come back the next time, and this is it now coming into it, the probabilities lessen. It was about 90% there. Now it's down to into the 60 range. But it's coming in at the same time that we have the S&P doing the same test, but for the first time. That's the 2043 number. You close the night at 2023. You're 20 points away. You can do that in a day, right? We did 20 today. We did more than 20 today. So if you think about it from that perspective, as this pops up into this area, that NASDAQ, the NDX, let me pull those up, they're going to be doing that same test again with a higher probability now, a lower probability of actually regenerating to the downside, but they're going to be doing it at the same time the S&P is coming into the thick of it for the first time. And what does that mean to me? Well, that means that when you get up there, you're probably going to come right back down. So going back to that chart that I was just showing you on the S&P, this push, as we are coming back up into this area, this push is going to make that ABCD structure I just showed you, right? This is going to make this ABCD structure very, very hard to complete. And so the odds are not with it to actually do that. So keep that in mind as you go about your business. Russell was down big today. It was leading on the way down, and then everything flipped around. Russell came storming back, up 2.27%. A heck of a rally just straight up at the end of the day. Everything, once it got going today, just kept going. And all the losses from earlier this week, that little consolidation that took place here, quickly regained, and they're trying to push it higher. So indexes look like they're going to push higher. When they push higher, they're going to run into resistance, and then that's going to make it such that they're probably going to try to come back. And we'll just have to measure that as it comes up there. If we look over at the European markets, so the German DAX, right? German DAX doing the same thing. You got the little ABCD structure trying to set up. And so you have this kind of taking place. And this one actually, it looks like it was to there, and then a pullback, and then another push up would take it up into its retest regen if it's going to do it. If we look at the CAX, I think the CAX is actually stronger, looks about the same, has the same sort of thing going on. ABCD structure to take it back to a higher retest regen. Remember about 2 weeks ago, we got over the first set of bearish retest regens on almost all the indexes in most of the sectors. If we're looking at the CAX, for example, that area was down in here. And right as we came over it, right, once we set it and we broke it here, on the way back, we got over it. Once you get over it, then you come back in, you test, and you say, hey, no more sellers there. We're going to take it back the other way. So now you're going to try to reach up and get the next one. That's the way the markets work. Question is can they actually reach up there? Can they get over this high? Can they break that high just like we did today? U.S. market still the strongest economically. Others are lagging. You're going to hear more and more talk just like you heard in China over the weekend, Where they're going to stimulate, well, you're going to have to hear it out of Europe. So I suspect the next place you're going to hear it is over here. Then you're going to hear it out of Japan, right? The stimulation stuff doesn't stop. Why are these markets rallying? Well, it's because nobody can raise rates. Everybody keeps cutting rates, keeps doing QE, keeps killing their currency because that's the only way they can quote unquote grow. It's a problem. It's a false sense of security, if you will, but that's the game that's being played. It continues to be played over and over, and it will be played until the music stops and somebody runs out of seats to sit down on. So last night I was going to look at some member questions and I totally forgot, so I'm going to pick them up here tonight. I'll do that as soon as we come back.
Learn how to trade with the Trade with LA service provided to you by TA today. This service includes daily portfolio and comments that are emailed to you before the market opens each morning. We provide a daily view of the markets and a model portfolio you can follow even if you work another job. Every weekend, LA records his weekend broadcasts that gives you a synopsis of the week and a prognosis of coming weeks. You will also have access to our Teach and Trade room, where LA provides day trades and teaches neoclassical concepts throughout the trading day. To get started, go to our homepage and click Trade with LA.
Okay, as we come back here, let's take a look at some of these questions. One had to do with AMGN. Okay, so now AMGN, I'm on a daily chart. AMGN has a nice big spike high up here. That's always nice to see. Then you had a spike low, both of them on volume, and then you tested underneath it with more, actually less volume, but it held. Now, the problem with this chart, if there is one, is you've got some volume sitting at the low, but as you can see here, sometimes that takes a while before it ever comes back anyway. So, you know, I wouldn't get too worried about it because you got a nice big spike up on volume here. Now you have an ABCD structure brewing just like you had before. So if I draw these out for you, you got the lows here, right? ABCD structure on the way up. It does that one. Now it's doing another one on the way back and trying to set up the next one to take it back up to do a full retest regen. So AMGN to me looks like it's going to try to get to the high of that bar that's over here. That's where I would be looking for this thing to try and travel if I'm looking just at the daily. But we don't look at just one chart. We look at multiples so that we can see what's going on across all time frames, because you know you can't make sense of everything on just one time frame. So if I pull this up and look at it, well, that one's doing a full retest regen. That was what brought it back the first time, right, and held it in. So this is a big test. And if AMGN can get over this, you have three kind of key areas that you could go to. These are the three. And I think any of these are going to put some resistance on it too. That one, and this one here. More likely this one. And so the real resistance is going to be felt on that bar. Looks like that number is, what is that, 159? So we're trading at about 152. So you can get another $7 out of this thing if this general market holds up. And that's a general question. As I said just a minute ago, you know, it's been wrong to chase this market on the way up. Now AMGN is trying to set up on the way up, but you know, the ABCD structure, right? If I go back to the daily here, it's trying to set it up. You know, so if you get over this and you can get over these swing point highs, then yeah, you can leapfrog up there and certainly hit that 159 number. So, you know, it's a risk-reward question. And today it had a nice big spike. All of the stocks did. This was up 3%. The biotechs were up in general. Not a lot of volume today, but you know, you're fixing to get at this point. That would be the B point, and that's where you want to see it break out. Next question has to do with Wayfair. Wayfair has a nice spike up, you know, two big bars back here. I didn't look at this, but I suspect that was short covering back there. So now you're coming back into that bar. So if I look at that and draw it across, right, you got this resistance here. That's where it's trying to get to. If you get over that, right, there's really not much to stop it until you get up here. I think that's the real target if you can get there. Just like the others, they're setting up ABCD structures to try to go higher. It looks like this one got over it today, and that higher will take it right to that number. So I kind of like the way this one's setting up. I haven't checked to see when the earnings are on it, so be aware that you got to consider earnings. And I'm popping over to the weekly to see if there's anything here, and that looks fine. I don't see anything there, so looks pretty good. Again, I think there's an old saying, everybody's a genius when the market goes up, right? And right now, if the market continues up, then all these stocks are going to go with it because they're all oversold, right? They all, came down hard. They're all bouncing back. They almost all have the same structure. It's like throw a dart. It's the same thing on most of them, but the real question is, will the market continue higher? Because if it does, then they're all probably going to go with it. Next one, Play, which is Dave & Buster's. So this one's faded back in. And again, I haven't checked to see when earnings are, but that makes me think that was an earnings right there, given the spike. But so that was back on early October 1st. It went up, came shy of that, tested that. Yeah, that's kind of a hard read. Let's see what the weekly looks like. Well, this one's a hard read. The thing is here is if you want to play this thing, I could make an argument to go either way, but if you want to play this thing, it's not a bad spot to play it, right? Because if you bring up that daily again, let me pull it back up here, your stops are right underneath this low. If it gets under this, it's just going to keep going. So today you tested at 37.42. That low is 37.42. So you went right into it. You had less volume. This is the buy. You buy it here, you put your stop right up underneath it, and you give it nothing. The only thing I do is, like I've said on the others, check the earnings and make sure that you don't have an earnings number hit you while you're in this thing. So that looks like the spot is right here right now. All right, let's wrap this up. Think about what's going to happen. Last night we were talking about that we should expect this market to turn around and come back up and try to get to that ABCD structure, that swing point high. That's what it did, and it did it all in one day. I didn't think it was going to do it. I thought it'd take a couple days. But now you're there. Now you're going to try to bust over it. Where can it go? I think this high here is where it's going to try to get to, is 2034. That's not that far up. I'd be surprised if it doesn't try to get there. That's 10 points up, and that's probably a spot that it's gonna probably settle in tomorrow, and that's where it will have resistance. That's going to take the other indexes up to the resistance for them, and then we're going to see what this market wants to do come next week. Probably is the way it's going to lay out. So my take here is look for some more up tomorrow, and then it's going to get difficult. Folks, as I said earlier, if you got time, if you care about your money, if you care about your retirement funds, we got a lot of things to offer on TA Today. I'm a learning site. I teach you how to fish. Matter of fact, I teach myself out of subscribers is what I end up doing, because I teach them how to do it on their own, and they just kind of go away, and then they simply use the tools if they want to continue trading. But there's a lot of good stuff. Tell a friend, tell two. I'm LA. This is, and it was, your daily NeoTA wrap. Have yourself a great night, great weekend. I'll see you on Sunday when we do the weekly show. Tune in then. We'll take a broader perspective, see what's going on from a weekly and monthly perspective, try to make sense of the big picture. Have a great one. Take care. Good night.